Live from Fox 13, this is breaking news.
All right, it is Bill Wixie and Liz DeWicki here in the Fox 13 studios, and we're keeping an eye on these pictures of Mount Rainier right now. And if you live anywhere in that area, no doubt you have probably heard something maybe going on with the mountain, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it ourselves. But what we can tell you right now from experts, this is a cloud that apparently a lenticular cloud, which do form on the top of Mount Rainier, but this one behaving a little bit strangely.
Yeah, I mean, people on social media had called it steam. We had heard the term venting, which a lot of specialists who deal with Mount Rainier and track it say is pretty normal. But Mount Rainier, the National Park Service, tweeting just moments ago, saying again, Mount Rainier is not erupting. Going on to say they've looked at several webcams that were causing concern, which is basically the picture we're showing you right now. And again, calling it a cloud, determining that it is a lenticular cloud. In addition, the USGS reporting no indications of any unusual seismic activity, which is, of course, the big concern around here as well. So we also want to bring in Brian McMillan to talk a little bit about this. I think what was kind of nerve-wracking was, I mean, we've seen cloud. I mean, the mountain has its own weather system, basically, but this was like billowing, and what's going on up there?
You know, usually when we talk about lenticular clouds, it's like a little
a cap. Yeah.
A cap, right? A circular spaceship-looking cloud.
This one looked
on the
so
tip top.
active.
Yes, and this one looked like it was kind of billowing from a certain location. Winds up there are pretty strong. We're seeing those winds rush up the side of the mountain. And perhaps today, the way the weather is acting up there on the mountain, where the gusts kind of accelerate as they get up there to the tip top of the mountain, it kind of gave it that billowing look. It did for a minute there, you guys. I mean, it really did look like it was smoking. I mean, Abby and I were talking back here in the Weather Center. It might be a fire or something like that, but turns out it's just a cloud. Good news, right?
That's good.
We
That's
know
best
that
case
we
scenario.
live in, well, we know we live in a seismic area.
Absolutely.
We know we live in a volcanic area. We have active volcanoes in the Cascades, and geothermal venting does happen. We've seen that notably in the past at Mount St. Helens,
right,
and some of our other mountains where you do get venting from the mountain. So I think that was the immediate concern today. And it was interesting when Mount Rainier tweets out, literally, Mount Rainier is not erupting, and putting "not" in all caps. And here's another one from USGS volcanologists who are actually on the mountain right now today, saying this is not an eruption. In fact, is not any unusual sort of behavior. And as I mentioned, the volcanologists on site, and coincidentally, they're installing some new equipment. They have confirmed nothing abnormal is happening at the volcano. So there you go.
No seismic activity up there that's been unusual. You know, there's always like little rumblings and things like that, but they're actually installing new equipment for that particular reason. And if you remember, if you were alive or around during the Mount St. Helens eruption, we had a lot of warning. We had several weeks of warning before that actually blew its top. So,
and if you were around here at that time, you'll never forget it.
No, absolutely not. Yeah.
So we also, that picture we were showing you was taken, it's from the Graham area this morning, where John Hopperstad has been as well. So John's been monitoring this for us since it first kind of popped up here. John, what's going on?
Yeah, it's been an unusual sight, as you guys have mentioned throughout the morning. We were initially gassing up in Eatonville when we noticed it. Just seeing the mountain pop like it is today is pretty spectacular. And then you're noticing that there is something going on up top, and it did appear like there was venting or some kind of steam coming out of the top of Mount Rainier, but we are being told by the U.S. Geological Survey as well as Mount Rainier National Park, as you guys have mentioned, that this is not an eruption and that this is indeed a cloud over the top of Mount Rainier here, and that this behavior is really not that unusual. You mentioned that there's volcano scientists from the USGS at the volcano this week installing some new monitoring equipment, so they're right there. They're seeing what's going on, and they're telling us this is not an eruption of any kind. This is not steam. This is indeed a cloud, a low cloud likely hanging over the mountain, but it has created quite a sight here this morning. If you're in this section of Pierce County, we're right off Meridian Avenue here in Graham as you head into Puyallup, and you can see the mountain. I mean, it's clear as day today, not much, a lot of blue skies showing off the mountain just about anywhere, and you can see what appears to be steam coming out of there. Of course, you guys have mentioned U.S. Geological Survey saying that is not the case. This is indeed a cloud hanging over Mount Rainier. It just looks really cool. guys.
All right, John Hopperstad live in Graham for us. So we're looking at these pictures, and the reason why we wanted to come on the air and explain what this is because it was so remarkable to us. I mean, I've lived here pretty much forever. John Hopperstad has. You have as well. You've been around the mountain many times, Liz. I mean, you know how lenticular clouds typically appear.
Yeah.
To your earlier point, we don't see them behave like this.
Not often. I mean, it's.
And look, you can see it moving right on that shot.
Right, you can. And so here's how lenticular clouds are formed, okay? The air rushes up the side of the mountain, and then as it goes up in elevation, that air cools and condenses and creates a cloud, okay? And so at the top, it's typically you get kind of a hat or a little cap on the top because it pretty evenly spreads out there around the tippy top of the mountain. What we saw today was kind of this cloud forming out of one location, maybe a pocket of specifically a pocket of cooler air up there. It did look like it was billowing out of one part of the mountain. But yeah, I would guess that here over the next, maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, that might be a more even little cap there on the top of the mountain. But really interesting to see how that formed.
Yeah, and once again, USGS Volcanoes confirming that the assessment is, of course, it is a cloud. Mount Rainier is not erupting, despite some concern that there was this morning, and it was not venting either, which is also something that we've heard about the mountain do.
Right. Yes. I mean,
kind of blowing off steam.
These volcanoes are sleeping, but someday, we're going to have an eruption out there. Someday, it's a volcano that will someday become active here. So it's just sleeping, a sleeping giant, as it were.
So we are monitoring the situation on Mount Rainier very closely. There is no threat to the public. It is, as you said, just a cloud. So we are keeping an eye on it.
It's good news.
No, that's
you better
good news.
believe it.
That's good
the
news.
best news.
I mean, that's the last thing you'd want to come on, air and talk about.
No. And obviously, as you mentioned, if it was to erupt, we would have plenty of warning. We are monitoring the situation very closely. We're gathering a lot of information, and we'll have that online at fox13seattle.com and also today at 4 and 5. Have a good one.